Welcome to Chapter 3 Solutions. Today's tip of the day is, don't get caught studying at work. Trust me, it's happened before. Don't let it happen to you. We're going to get started with number 1. Number 1 tells us that Sonia is having a party where there will be 8 attendees, including herself. And she wants to have a recipe large enough so that everyone can get 2 servings. So since there are 8 people, she wants a total of 16 servings. The recipe she's using makes for 5 servings. So the question asks us, by what % must Sonia increase her recipe in order to get 16 servings? So for percent change, remember we take the difference divided by either our original or base number. This answer will give us a fraction, and when we divide in our calculators, we'll get a decimal, and we want a percent. So remember, for a percent, we have to multiply by 100. And so that's why this 100 is part of that percent change formula that you saw in the book. So percent change is 100 times the difference divided by the original number. So our original or base number is 5, because that's what the recipe makes. And the difference is 16 minus 5, which is 11. And you get 1100 in the numerator divided by 5, which is 220, and that is in percent. So the answer is 220. If you got 320, 1, you probably didn't use this formula, and 2, you saw that 16 is 3.2 times 5. However, it says what is the increase, what is the change? So the 5 is already 100% of itself. 16 is 320% of 5, but it's only 220% more than 5. Keep that in mind. Number 2, we are told that the ice cream sold at Yummy's Ice Creamery is in the ratio of 5 to 8 to 11 for strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate, respectively. And we are asked to find the ratio of what was sold in terms of not chocolate to all ice cream. So not chocolate is 13 parts, because not chocolate means strawberry or vanilla, to all ice cream. So all ice cream means that we add up all of the parts. So the answer is simply 13 to 24, which is answer choice B. Number 3. We're told that at a conference, 2/3 of the women are entrepreneurs, and we are asked to find the ratio of the women who are not entrepreneurs to the ratio of those who are entrepreneurs. Okay? So we're told that the ratio of entrepreneurs, or the amount of entrepreneurs rather, is 2/3. So that means that the non-entrepreneurs is a fraction of 1/3. So not entrepreneur to entrepreneur is a ratio of 1/3 to 2/3. Great. So you feel like you have your answer down, and you look at the answer choices and see that the ratio is written in integers only. You have fractions, so how can we convert this to integers? Just like an equation, whatever you do to one side of your ratio, as long as you do it to the other side, you're keeping your ratio balanced. So to get rid of the fraction here, you need to multiply by 3, and then multiply this side by 3, and you get a ratio of 1 to 2, so your answer is B. Number 4, there are a couple of ways that we can approach number 4. So number 4 tells us that the ratio of winning tickets to losing tickets is 1 to 5, and then the actual number of tickets that are not winning tickets, so your losing tickets, is 360. Then they want to know what the total number of tickets is. So one thing you can do is change this ratio into a fraction. If you find the fractional part of losing tickets, you can set it equal to the actual number of losing tickets. So let's say that your total number of tickets is X. Well, the fractional part of losing, remember that a fraction is part over a whole. So we have 5 parts losing over a whole, which is the sum of the parts. So 5/6 of our tickets are losing tickets. So that is 5/6 of our tickets, so times X equals 360. And then we go ahead and solve this for X, which gives us the answer for our total. So there are 2 ways that we can solve this. We can divide both sides by 5/6, or we can multiply by the reciprocal of 5/6, because remember, a number times its reciprocal is simply 1, leaving us with x over here by itself. So if we multiply both sides by 6/5, we just get x on the left. And if we multiply this by 6/5, we get 432. Remember, you can just put this in your calculator. So you can do 6 divided by 5, and then multiply that answer times 360, and you'll get that x equals 432 tickets. Okay? Another way you can solve this, if you didn't think to turn this into a fraction, and I don't even know if that's the way that I originally did it. If you know that the ratio is 1 to 5, then you know that the actual is 360 to what? Well, in this case, you can actually set up a proportion, because these are two equal ratios. So you can say 1 is to 5 as x is to 360. Okay? Notice in this case, your x represents something different. X is no longer the total, which is why I erased it over here. Because 1 represents the part winning, 5 represents the part losing. So x represents winning, and 360 represents the losing tickets. So if you cross multiply, meaning multiply 360 times 1 and set it equal to 5 times x, you get 360 equals 5x. If you go ahead and solve for x, you have to divide both sides by 5. You get x equals 72. Remember, the question asks you for the total number of tickets. So you take your winning tickets and add it to the 360, and you get 72 plus 360 gives you 432. So there are a total of 432 tickets. Okay, number 5. 5 is a little bit complicated, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, Ike spent twice as much time biking as walking, and 3 times as much time walking as swimming. What is the ratio of the time Ike spent biking to the time he spent swimming? Okay, so what we're asked to find here is the ratio between biking and swimming. What we are given is a relationship to the amount of time that he spent biking, walking, and swimming. The things that are directly compared are biking and walking, and then walking and swimming. So notice that biking and swimming are not directly compared, which is why we have to work through the problem to get an answer. So biking is based off of walking, and walking is based off of swimming. So ultimately, all of the information is based off of swimming. So we're going to make our swimming time spent swimming variable x. Since everything is based on swimming, you want to make your variable based off of swimming. Okay? Then it says you spent 3 times as much time walking as swimming. So walking is 3 times x. And then you spent twice as much time biking as walking. So you simply double the amount of time spent walking. Okay? Now if you simplify this, remember again, we want biking versus swimming. So biking is 2 times 3x, which is 6x, and swimming is simply x. Okay? So all we have to do is simplify both sides. They both have x's in them. So you'll recall in the previous problem, I multiplied both sides of my ratio by 3. I can also divide both sides of my ratio by the same thing. Okay? So if I don't want this x here and it's unnecessary, I divide both sides by x, and I get that the ratio is 6 to 1. Remember, anything over itself is 1. So the answer is E. Number 6. Number 6 is another relatively complicated word problem, so I'm going to go ahead and read this one as well. So it says, if the ratio of the cost of children's tickets to adults' tickets sold was 1 to 2, and the ratio of the number of children's tickets sold to adults' tickets sold was 3 to 1, what fractional part of the ticket sale revenue can be attributed to the sale of children's tickets? Okay? So the first ratio is in terms of costs. So cost is this one down here. If you let y be the cost of a children's ticket, then 2y is the cost of an adult ticket, because the ratio of the cost is 1 to 2, which means adult tickets cost twice as much. The next ratio says that 3 times as many, tells us that 3 times as many children's tickets were sold as compared to adult tickets. And then they want to know what fractional part of the sale is attributable to the sale of children's tickets. Okay, so how much of the revenue was based on children's tickets? So revenue is the number of tickets sold times the cost of each ticket. So the revenue of the child is 3x times 1, the revenue of the children's tickets, 3x times y. So 3xy is the revenue for children's tickets, and then 2xy, the cost times the number of adult tickets, is the revenue from the number of adult tickets sold. So the total revenue brought in from ticket sales is 5xy. Remember, this first one is how much revenue was brought in from the sale of the children's tickets. So the fractional part brought in by the children's tickets is the part brought in by children divided by the total revenue. Our variables cancel, and we get 3/5 as our answer. Number 7 asks us how far apart a water slide is from a particular roller coaster at a park. So the map key says that 1/4 of an inch represents 200 feet. And based on the map, we know that the water slide and the roller coaster are 3.5 inches apart. So the map is in proportion to how things actually are at the amusement park. So what you want to do here is set up a proportion. 1/4 of an inch on the map represents 200 feet in reality. And what we have is 3.5 inches, and we want to know how many feet that represents. So this is a simple proportion, and all we have to do is cross multiply. Okay? Since you have your calculators, what you would want to do is either write this as 7/2, write it as an improper fraction, or write it as 3.5. Okay? It's a little bit harder to write 3.5 into your calculator. So cross multiplying, you get 1/4 x equals 700. Notice I dropped the units because we're going to get 1/4 inches feet equals 700 inches feet. So the inches and the feet end up canceling out. Okay? What you want to do is solve for x here, so you have two options. You can divide both sides by 1/4, or you can multiply by the reciprocal. I'm sure you guys were thinking that exact same thing. Okay? So remember, a number times its reciprocal is 1, so we get x equals 2,800, and it equals 2,800 feet because x is in feet. So the answer is E. Number 8. In number 8, we're told that Alex took a speed reading class and she can now read 12 pages in 45 seconds. And from that, we're asked to find how long it will take her to read 90 pages. One thing to keep in mind from the beginning is that the original information is in seconds, and we are asked to find out how many minutes, or to the nearest minute, how long will it take her to read the 90 pages. So we have to take that into account when we set up our problem. Since this is a rate given to us that is going to be consistent throughout her reading, we can set up a proportion. Okay? So 12 pages in 45 seconds is like reading 90 pages in X minutes. Okay? At this point, before we cross multiply, we want to make our units the same in the denominator. So we can change the seconds into minutes, or we can change the minutes into seconds. Okay? It does not matter which. So I'll go ahead and change these seconds into minutes. So 45 seconds, if you keep in mind, a second is 1/60th of a minute. So 45 seconds is 45 60ths of a minute. Okay? So if I rewrite that, I can actually reduce 45 over 60 to 3 over 4 by dividing the top and bottom by 15. So I have 12p over 3/4 minutes equals 90p over x minutes. Now all I need to do is cross multiply, and since my units are the same, I can now ignore them. So when I cross multiply, I get 12x is equal to 90 times 3/4. Okay? What you want to do here is simplify the right side. 90 times 3/4. In your calculator, you can say 90 times 0.75, or you can do the 3/4 first. Simply do 3 divided by 4 and then multiply by 90. and you will get 67.5. And then you need to divide both sides by 12. You get x equals 5.625. And remember that this is in minutes. And we are asked to round to the nearest minute, which will be 6 minutes, so the answer is B. Number 9. Alex's brother Sam took the same speed reading class. I guess I got the sibling discount. And he can also read 12 pages in 45 seconds. And we're asked, how long will it take him to read X pages? So it's a similar problem, so we can do the exact same setup. So he can do 12 pages in 45 seconds. How long will it take him to read X pages? Okay? Now, in this case, it's a little confusing because we already have a variable. So let's say that our new variable is y. So it'll take him y minutes to do X pages. We are actually going to be solving for y because we are interested in how long it will take him. Okay? So we're not going to solve for X here. Again, we have seconds here and minutes here. So I'm going to convert this into minutes and make this 3/4 of a minute, exact same as the previous problem. So 3/4 of a minute. And now I can cross multiply. So I get 3/4 x equals 12y. So again, I want to solve for y in this case. If you look at our answer choices, our answers are in terms of x, which is a great sign. So we're going to divide both sides by 12 to figure out what y is. And you're left with this rather odd looking fraction. Okay? So remember, a fraction divided by a fraction, and 12 can be written as a fraction because I'm going to put it over 1, is the same as multiplying this original number by the reciprocal of the denominator. Okay? So that means 3/4 times 1/12 is the same as 3/4 divided by 12 over 1, and we're still multiplying by the x. Okay? So if you multiply across, you get 3 over 48 times x, which is 3/48 x, which we can then reduce to 1/16 x, and all of that equals y. Oh, sorry, this x is off to the side. So this x is off to the side here, and it's off to the side here. This is 1/16 times x. Remember that x is also over 1, so you can also put it in the numerator. So this is 1 times x, which is x over 16. So in this case, our answer choice is written in this form, and the answer is A. The answer choice could just as easily been written as 1/16 x. So don't let that throw you off. If the x is off to the side, then that x is in the numerator. Okay? That x is not in the denominator. Number 10. Number 10 tells us that it takes 2/3 of an hour to drive 80 miles, and it asks us at this rate, how many minutes will it take to drive 120 miles? Okay, so again, this is similar to the previous two problems, in which case we have a constant rate, so we can set up a proportion. So 2/3 of an hour takes 2/3 of an hour to go the 80 miles. How many minutes? So we can say x minutes to go 120 miles. Okay, again, we have two different units here. So we can change our hours into minutes or our minutes into hours. Okay, if we want to change our hours into minutes, remember there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So we simply multiply this side by 60. Okay, once we multiply this side by 60, we are now in minutes. If we wanted to turn these minutes into hours, we would divide this side by 60. Okay? So over here, you can simplify this by putting it in your calculator or putting the 60 over 1 and saying 60 times 2 divided by 3 times 1. So 60 times 2 is 120 divided by 3, and that is 40. So 2/3 of an hour is 40 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to replace all of this here with 40 minutes. Okay, now I can cross multiply. One thing that we can do to make this problem a little bit simpler is simplify our fractions wherever possible. So 40 over 80 is simply 4 over 8, which is 1 over 2. So now our numbers are much smaller to work with. It's not a huge deal because you have your calculator, but it doesn't hurt. Okay? At this point, we're going to cross multiply. So 1 times 120 is 120, and 2 times x is 2x. We divide both sides by 2, and we get that x equals 60, and our answer is therefore C. Number 11. Number 11 tells us that John can make 12 free throws in 2 minutes, and it asks us if he keeps that same pace up, how many minutes it will take him to make X free throws. So this is simply a proportion because he's keeping his same average going. So we have 12 free throws to 2 minutes, and that equals X free throws in how many minutes. So instead of putting a question mark, we can replace the question mark with a variable. So he can do X free throws in Y minutes. Now if you look at this, we have 2 variables, so keep in mind the variable that we are solving for. We're solving for Y because we are asked how many minutes will it take him to make the X free throws. Okay? So what we do is we cross multiply. Remember again, since our units are all lined up, we don't need to include them when we do our cross multiplication. So we get 12y equals 2x. Again, y stands for the number of minutes, so we divide both sides by 12, and y equals 2x over 12, which reduces to x over 6. So to make x free throws, it will take him x over 6 minutes. So the answer is D, x over 6. Now, this might be a little bit confusing to you, so let's just think about what this means. If it takes, if John makes, for example, 24 free throws, it will take him 24 divided by 6 minutes, or 4 minutes to make those free throws. If John makes 36 free throws, it will take him 36 divided by 6, or 6 minutes to make those free throws. Okay? So again, the answer is x over 6, answer choice D. That concludes the Chapter 3 solutions. So hopefully that this section went well for you. At this point, you should be able to go to the official guide and do the recommended problems there that have to do with these concepts. Good luck, and we'll see you back for Chapter 4.